Stop scrolling, because what you're about to hear is not by chance. It's not a coincidence that you've faced the struggles you've faced, especially when it comes to your relationship with your mom. This is not random. This is by design. You are a chosen one, and God had a purpose when He separated you from your mother. That pain, that loneliness you felt, it was not meaningless. It was part of your preparation for something greater. Don't miss this message. Take a moment and reflect. Are you ready? Ready to face the truth behind the reason God separated you? Are you prepared to rise higher, to walk into the divine purpose He has for you? You've always felt it, haven't you? That separation, that feeling like a chasm between you and your mother that no one can cross? Perhaps it made you question your place, your worth, or even God's love. But I need you to understand that this was never a sign of abandonment. It was a divine act of separation, a deliberate decision by God to set you apart. The absence you felt wasn't some mistake. It was purposeful, a form of refinement. It was as though God carved out a space in your life, a place where He could mold you without the distractions of earthly attachments, without the influence of worldly expectations. The pain you endured, the emotional wounds, the distance, wasn't because God didn't care. No, it was because He needed you to be free from the limitations of human connections. Your mission on earth requires a strength that doesn't come from earthly love, but from God's own love. From the very start, your path has been different. When others found comfort in their mother's embrace, you might have felt abandoned or misunderstood, standing alone in your pain. But that isolation was not a weakness. It was a form of strength building. God was teaching you to rely on Him alone. He was preparing you for something greater, something higher. Like a soldier in training, stripped of comforts, you were being honed for a higher calling. That separation from your mother was the very forge through which your soul was being tested. You might have looked at others and felt a sense of longing, a desire for the bond you saw in other families. But here's the thing. God wasn't just allowing you to experience this void for no reason. He was filling it with something far greater than anything this world could provide. In the emptiness of that space, He drew closer to you. In that isolation, you found Him more clearly, more strongly. It was a love that doesn't fail, that doesn't fade. His love is the perfect love. It was a love that sustained you through every tear, through every lonely night, through every battle you fought alone. Your separation from your mother wasn't punishment. It was preparation. You weren't just hurt, you were sharpened. Every argument, every criticism, every hurtful remark, it was all a lesson. You were being trained to be stronger, to stand firm. Others may not understand the weight of your struggles, but God saw every moment and used it to mold you into someone who would stand tall in the face of adversity. God saw the pain you endured, the wounds you bore, and He used those very things to build an armor of resilience within you. The very struggles that others would falter under, you survived. And that survival has made you stronger. You didn't face this separation because you were meant to be weak. No, you faced it because you were meant to rise above it, to rise higher than the limitations of earthly love, and to grasp something greater, the power of God's divine love. You've been through battles, some of the fiercest battles of your life. You may not even have realized it, but you've been in a spiritual battle. Every manipulation, every emotional attack, every time you were made to feel less than, was part of God's plan to shape you for something greater. Those wounds, they're not just scars. They are your strength. They are your armor. They have shaped you into someone who can withstand storms that others would never survive. You may have wondered why your relationship with your mother seemed destined for pain. Why was it so hard? Why did you always feel that emotional distance? The answer is simple, yet profound. God never intended for you to find your identity in your mother. Her toxicity, whether out of her own jealousy, pain, or unresolved issues, was never meant to define you. It was meant to show you the insufficiency of human relationships, to teach you to rely on God alone, to find your value not in the approval of others, but in His. Every moment you sought her approval and didn't receive it, you were being trained to find your worth in God alone. This struggle, this emotional disconnect, was never meant to break you. It was meant to show you how strong you can be when you don't rely on human approval, but on God's love, grace, and purpose for your life. The world tells us that family is everything, that the bonds between a mother and child are sacred and unbreakable. But what if God has something different in mind for you? What if He is calling you to rise above those bonds and walk a path that few are brave enough to take? Others might be tied to unhealthy family dynamics, but not you. God has given you the freedom to break away from those emotional chains that hold others back. He has set you apart for a divine purpose, a calling that transcends the limits of ordinary human relationships. Every moment of pain, every tear you've shed, every moment of loneliness you've experienced, these are not signs of failure. They are part of God's divine plan to prepare you for something that few will ever understand. You are not bound by the same ties that hold others down. You are chosen for something greater, something extraordinary. Now, I know that might sound overwhelming, but hear me out. It's not about what you've lost. It's about what you've gained. The emotional distance you've felt is not a sign that you've been abandoned. It is evidence that God has set you apart for something greater than you can imagine. What you've gone through, those wounds, that loneliness, that separation, are all part of a divine chiseling process. God is shaping you into something stronger. He's carving away the parts of you that would have held you back from fulfilling your true calling. Look at the world as a battlefield. Most people rely on the comforts of earthly love to get them through the tough times. They seek approval from their parents, their families, their friends. But you've been trained to fight alone. You've been trained to stand strong, even when everything around you feels like it's falling apart. In the silence, in the loneliness, you found God. And through that, you became stronger. You became someone who could rise above the noise and focus on what truly matters: God's calling for your life. Through all of this, God has been teaching you to depend on Him. He has been strengthening you, refining you, preparing you for the battles ahead. Every conflict, every moment of tension between you and your mother has been part of that preparation. The emotional wounds you've carried are not scars of defeat. They are battle marks, signs that you have survived and that you are stronger than ever before. You may have felt abandoned, neglected, or unloved, but God never left you. In the very places where you felt the greatest absence, He has been filling that space with His presence. He didn't let you stay dependent on human love, because He knows that no human love could ever compare to His. He knows that the love He offers is the only love that can truly sustain you, the only love that will never fail. Your separation from your mother is not a mistake. It is a divine act of refinement. It is the preparation you need to step into the extraordinary calling God has for your life. So don't look at the distance between you and your mother as a failure, or as something to be ashamed of. Look at it as evidence of your calling. The pain you've endured has been part of the process, part of God's plan to shape you into someone who is strong, resilient, and ready to rise above the limitations of this world. In fact, this separation is proof that you are chosen for something greater than you can currently see. You have been set apart for a divine purpose. God is using this time to prepare you, to strengthen you, and to refine you into the person He needs you to become. Don't let the pain, the loneliness, or the struggles make you feel weak. They are part of your training. They are shaping you into someone who is ready to carry the weight of God's purpose for your life. This emotional distance, this separation from your mother, is not a mark of failure. It is a sign of divine favor. It is evidence that you are chosen, that you are being prepared for something extraordinary. So, when you feel alone, when you feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders, remember that this is just the process of God shaping you into something stronger. You are not abandoned. You are being prepared. You are not forsaken. You are being refined. And the purpose He has for you is greater than anything you could ever imagine. So rise up, chosen one. Embrace your separation as a sign of your divine calling. You are not like the others. You are not bound by the same limitations. You are set apart, chosen for a higher purpose. And God is using every moment of pain, every tear, and every moment of loneliness to shape you into the person He created you to be. And remember, the best is yet to come. The rise you've been waiting for is just around the corner. The divine purpose you've been preparing for is closer than you think. Hold on, stay strong, and trust that God has a plan. He's been with you all along, and He's about to reveal the full extent of the greatness He has placed inside of you.